podcast. I'm your host, Kristen, and today I'm going to be talking about a couple of new cast-ons. No finished objects, unfortunately, but sharing a couple of design sneak peeks. So if that sounds like it will be of interest to you, I hope you will stick around. Welcome back, everyone. If this is the first video that you are watching in the new year, Happy New Year. Since it is a new year and I've been having a few more subscribers join us recently, I will quickly kind of review the videos that I do here on the Media Peruana Knits channel, which generally fall into three categories. So one is tutorials, that's pretty straightforward, showing how to do certain techniques or even whole projects. The second one are shorter standalone vlogs, which are usually 20 to 30 minutes and address a specific topic like pattern trends or seasonal knitting plans or knitting goals and resolutions, things like that. And then about once a month, I share an episode of the podcast where it's a little bit longer, a little bit more chatty, and I'm just sharing my whips and sometimes finished objects and any new yarn purchases, design sneak peeks, and things like that. So that is what we will be doing today. All right, before we get into the episode, I do want to tell you about my sweater. Today I'm wearing my Snowy Forest pullover. I don't remember the name of the designer, but it is a lovely sweater. A little bit hard to see on the camera, but it has this nice cabled yoke and a nice folded collar. I probably did not choose the best yarn for this sweater, so the yarn I used I think was just a 2-ply. So the cables have kind of gotten flattened out. I think if I had used something a little bouncier, that would have been better for that aspect, but it is nice and warm and soft. So I can't remember exactly what I used. It was a yarn from Fiber for the People. I believe it had some alpaca in it. I know the colorway, this nice green, is called Endor. I don't remember the exact details of the yarn, but the sweater is very nice and soft and comfortable to wear, but it is not like super squishy fabric. But great pattern. Love the Snowy Forest. I generally don't knit patterns twice, but if I were to knit this again, I would probably pick a different yarn. God forbid this one wears out someday. I think it is a lovely pattern. As usual, I don't have any finished objects. I did finish another basset hat. So you might remember I knit one of those in the fall for my husband. I knit another one for my dad, and I finished that early in January, but that has already been given to him, so I can't show it to you. It looks almost exactly like the first one that I knit because I used almost the same yarn. So that's the only thing I have finished, but I have started a bunch of new stuff. Of course, why not? So one thing, and I did start this during the holiday season and then not finish it, are my Christmas socks, which I'm just kind of keeping on the needles. So I started 2 pair of Christmas socks during the holiday season, and the one is a colorwork sock that's going nowhere fast. But this one is just a self-striping yarn I bought this from Simply Socks Yarn Company, and it was their Post yarn, P-O-S-T-E. They don't make it anymore. It's not a merino. It's got to be something else. It's a little toothier, maybe a BFL, and it's a self-striping. So I've had 2 of these skeins. I had one in like a Halloweeny fallish colorway, and then I had this one, and I finally wound it up and cast these on. These are just a plain vanilla sock, and I'm just kind of keeping them alive to keep the spirit of Christmas alive. So this first sock is almost done. I do love this striping, these colors. Let's get that out. So you've got like your traditional red and green, and then in here you've got these sort of like very 50s, 60s Christmas colors. And I even have my little Christmas stitch marker, or what do I call them? Progress keeper on there. So we're just keeping the spirit of Christmas alive. So this I just, grab and put a few rounds on here or there. As I said, the first one is nearly done. And once they are finished, they're just going to be packed away till the next holiday season. But today I went to get my hair done, and noticed a couple. I knew there was one like spare sock in the car. What a very normal thing. I knew there was one spare sock in the car, but I didn't know there was another one. So I took this out, and it's almost done. So I just need to put the toe on it. These are, what's it called? Jaywalkers? Is that it? I believe so. It's a pattern that was really popular when I first started knitting almost 20 years ago. Yeah, so these are Jaywalkers. And it is a self-striping yarn. And I know it's from White Birch Fiber Arts, and I know it has a name that's something to do with Hamilton, but I cannot remember what it is. I was working on these in the car when I used to do pickup for my son, but he's been riding the bus for at least 2 years, so these are I guess kind of old, and the yarn label's not in there, but they are almost done. So I started, decreasing for the toe when I was waiting for my hair color to set at the salon, and yeah, I guess I will keep plugging away on this because these are, like I said, I just have to finish up a toe and then I can start another sock. This also explains where my 1.5 US 1.5 needles are. So yeah, I'm gonna have, and these I don't have to wait until next Christmas to wear. So got a bonus sock here that I forgot existed. So yeah, maybe they'll be done by the next time. As I recall, the stitch pattern for the Jaywalkers is relatively easy to memorize. You're just alternating increases and decreases to make that chevron shape. So hopefully I will remember it pretty quickly. I have made almost no progress on anything that I have shown here before on the podcast. So here's my Rowena jumper. It might be a little longer. To be honest, I just so I know I talked about this before. It's supposed to have negative ease, but this just looks way too small. So I'll like do a few rounds, then I look at it, I'm like, no, I don't think that's right. It's going to be too small. I do want it to have some negative ease, but I think this is not right. So yeah, what I need to do is to put it on some barber cord and kind of try it on and see. But yeah, it's just one of those things where I think about working on it, I start, and then I stop and look at it, and I'm like, I don't think I should put more effort into this because I think I'm going to have to rip it out. But I have since started 2 new sweaters. So the first one I started very early in the year. This may have been New Year's Day. And so this is the upper back of my Roma cardigan. So this is a pattern by Mochi Knits, and it is just worked in a slip stitch, so kind of like the back of a sock heel. But it does, that's not something you see very often. We don't create a lot of things other than the heels of socks out of a slip stitch, but it does look nice. So you just alternate between knitting and slipping your stitches on the right side. And it makes a very squishy fabric because every time you slip a stitch, you carry a little bit of yarn across for the next stitch. So it makes just a very, very nice, squishy, and double thick kind of fabric. Very nice shaping along these shoulders here. So right now, as I said, this is the back yoke. So this is, the back neck. These are going to be the shoulders. Of course, it'll be on the back. This is my front, but and then I will work down to the armhole and then pick up here for the front yoke. So I have made some progress, not a ton. It is a little slow going because I'm constantly stopping to check that I'm still working a slip stitch pattern and have not automatically transitioned to stockinette when my brain wasn't paying attention. So that is a little slower with that. I also have a bit of a slippery yarn. So this yarn is Valley Yarns Westfield. It is 65% extra fine merino wool, 20% silk, 20% yak. So it is a little slippery. I believe the pattern, I actually can't remember. I translated this pattern. You think I'd remember? I don't. I don't remember what the pattern calls for, but I feel like it was a yarn with a little bit more halo, which unfortunately this does not have. But I wanted to make it I remember the original yarn blend was something rather luxurious. So I was looking for something that was a bit luxurious. Unfortunately, this, I may like brush it a little bit after it's done, and that might bring up a little bit more halo. But it is a rather slippery yarn because you've got the extra fine merino and you've got silk. I'm hoping that yak is going to kind of bloom up a little bit once it is done and give it a bit more halo. Not super important, but it does look nice in her finished photo. So this is just a very basic gray color. It's called Stone because I just wanted a kind of neutral cardigan that was going to go with a lot of things. So slowly plugging away on that. It hasn't been getting a ton of attention because I've been working on this, which I'll tell you guys about in a little bit, and a couple of other projects. And as I said, even though it's a very basic pattern, I do have a little bit of a tricky time not just flipping over to stockinette. So it can't really be like a complete zone out project. I do have to pay a little bit of attention. But so far the yarn is very nice and soft, if a bit slippery, and I think it's got a nice definition for the stitch pattern. So far enjoying this project. And then of course, for some reason, like 3 unfinished sweaters was not enough. So I had to cast on another one. So I was calling this my comfort cast on because let's face it, January has been a bit of a shit show so far. And I needed something to kind of brighten my mood. And it's also been absolutely frigid here lately. I really have been wanting a super cozy sweater. It is actually a balmy 31 degrees today. For the last 3 or 4 days, the high has been about 20 and the lows have been in the single digits, which I know for much of the country is normal, but is not quite so normal here. So I decided I was going to cast on one of my 5 must knit projects for the year. And this is my Yoon, I think it's pronounced, sweater. So as you can see, I have already done the collar. It is beautiful and squishy and folded over and lovely. I absolutely love it. And I have already worked all the short rows for the neck. So now I'm about to start the yoke. It is a raglan sweater. So this part will be very straightforward. So I am using this lovely teal yarn. Teal was one of my big colors when I kind of did like my fall winter wardrobe plan mood board. So I've got this yarn. So this yarn is Valley Yarns Beckett. This is 50-50 superfine alpaca and wool. It doesn't say what kind of wool. So I do know the sample for the pattern was done with whatever base yarn held double with a mohair. I didn't feel like doing that. But I did want a yarn that had some halo. So this was a good choice. Let's see if you can see it here. It's got some fuzz coming off of it. And I definitely am seeing a bit of fuzziness so far in the sweater. So I think it was a good choice. It is very nice to knit with. Definitely a little grippier than the previous yarn I showed you, but still nice and soft. Oh my gosh, it's so squishy. I love the folded over collar. And I realized I could just put a folded collar on, anything I knit. I'm the boss of my knitting. I can do what I want, but sometimes it just doesn't occur to me. Sometimes it doesn't quite go with the rest of the look of the whatever it is. But this time, it's a big, cozy, chunky sweater. So this is definitely an Aran weight yarn, and the folded collar is definitely working. So I have started this, which I said I wanted to have it for this year, but I also was questioning whether this is really the best time to cast on, because by the time it's done, then mostly the cold weather will be moving out. But here it is. I needed a bit of a comfort project, and I already had the yarn for it, so I went ahead and cast on, and so far so good. It is, from this point forward, it's a folded collar, which is, the joining round can be tedious, but it's fine. It's nothing difficult. And then the rest of the sweater is basically just a raglan with some distinctive, stitch patterning along the raglan lines, and then a very big split hem with ribbing at the bottom. So it will be very straightforward from here on out, which means I did have to, keep the directions close at hand when I was doing the short row shaping, but now it should be pretty simple. And I think that is pretty much it. Any other whips that I may have shown you in like November or December, they're all still whips. I have not made progress on anything. All right, so no, finished objects, but I have been putting some work into a couple of design projects that I can show you. So the first one, I don't know if I should actually call this a design project or not. I definitely designed it, but I don't know what I'm going to do with it, which is I have created this lovely mitten. So again, with the teal, that's almost identical, but it is not actually the same. So this, I bought a skein of the Knit Picks Woodland, which is a very similar yarn and similar color. So it's a wool alpaca blend. I think the balance of those two, it's a little different though. And decided after we had our big snowstorm a couple weeks ago, when I could not really go outside because I didn't have any mittens, that I needed to make some mittens. So I cast on a mitten, and basically it was just kind of playing around designing on the needles. So the first mitten that I made, I wasn't really focused on getting everything right. I was just kind of trying things out, seeing what I liked and what I didn't. And so then once it was finished, I actually ripped it out, and I made like a what was an Instagram reel that it's also here on the YouTube shorts of reversing the video of ripping it out, so it looks like it's knitting magic, knitting a mitten. And then took what I learned to knit this one, which is the final version. So it's got a 2x2 rib cuff. I made the thumb gusset originally wasn't long enough, and the thumb stitches were too big. And I had played around with like the spacing of this stuff in here. What is that? I had messed around with the spacing of the patterning here a couple of times on that mitt, and then finally decided what I wanted it to look like on this one. So as of right now, I only have one. I will certainly make another one, but I don't really know what I want to do with this. I did use this mitten to make my most recent tutorial, which was how to knit mittens. I don't go into the patterning part though, just the basic construction of a mitten, cuff, hand, body, and gusset, rest of your hand, how to close the top, how to knit the thumb, all of that. But I don't get into the specific patterning here that I used. So I can make this a pattern. I could make it a free pattern. I could make it a pattern that you get when you subscribe to my newsletter. I don't know. I don't really know where I want to go with this. I am planning to knit a second version. So I got some yarn from Hobby through their, what's it called? Influencer program or whatever. And I'm going to make a bit of a brighter version. I believe the yarn is a little bit thinner. So this is closer to an Aran weight. And the yarn I got from them is more like a regular worsted. So I may, so this was done on a US 7 and 8. So that'll probably be a 6 and 7. It'll be a little bit of a brighter color. So you'll actually be able to see this part, a little bit easier on that. So this is not blocked. So I'm going to make a second version, but I really am not sure what I'm going to do pattern wise, if anything. Does it need to be a pattern? I don't know. So if you have any thoughts on that, be sure to leave a comment and let me know what you think. It is a relatively, the actual mitten part is relatively straightforward. So it's basically just a pattern for the design, but also, if you have watched the How to Knit Mittens video, you know that I can't give you the number of stitches you need because I don't know what size yarn you're using and I don't know how big your hand is and I don't know what your gauge is. So obviously in a pattern, even if it's relatively straightforward, I've already done all that math for you. So then you do get, the exact numbers that you need. So cute mitten, let me know what you think. It is very nice and warm. So I really enjoyed this yarn. As I said, this is Knit Picks Woodland. And I was very happy knitting with it. It was lovely and squishy, and this color is beautiful. And then I have been working on another project that will definitely be a pattern. And this is a pattern I'm working on in collaboration with Knit Picks. This is using their Yakish yarn. So this is a sport weight yarn. This colorway is called Seawall, and it is a blend of stuff. What is the blend? There we go. 55% baby alpaca, 35% superwash merino, and 10% yak. So this is a bit of a luxurious blend of fibers. It has a bit of a halo coming in from the alpaca and the yak. It is nicely, tightly plied, so it is very springy. And I have made a sweater, or most of a sweater. It's getting there. So this is called Wintarmanoth, and it is going to be a pattern in a matter of weeks. I just need to get the actual sample done so that I can wear it and take photos and all of that important stuff. So the major detail here is, there we go. Okay, so this shaping along the front. So this is not a raglan. You can see there's no shaping on the back. So what this is like the sweater I was showing you earlier, the Roma cardigan, working kind of a trapezoid shape for the yoke and then picking up from the diagonal parts to create the opposite yoke. Now, a lot of sweaters have this at the back. In this case, I am putting this at the front. And I've used short rows to shape the neckline. The body of this has an A-line shape. The sleeves are going to be kind of a bell shape. Really not really a bell, more like just straight. So they're sort of open at the bottom. It's going to have some long ribbing, twisted ribbing maybe. I can't remember. Is that twisted rib? Yeah, twisted rib or half twisted rib along the hem and the cuffs. And then the collar is picked up last. You can see it has a bit of a wider collar, a wider neckline, but not super deep. I played with a folded collar. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. At this point, it is not a folded collar. If I have time, I'm trying to get everything done. I may take this collar out, try a folded collar and see. I thought it was just going to be too chunky though, given that the rest of the sweater is a rather, it's a sport weight yarn, so it's a thinner fabric, and it's a drapey design. It's an A-line shape. It has the wide kind of bell sleeves. I think the folded collar is just going to be too much. It's going to be too chunky looking for it. But I also don't love the way my bind off looks. And that's, might just be user error. And this obviously is not blocked. But you can also see in the fabric, like the yarn is not, the stitch definition is kind of a little all over the place. It's not a super smooth yarn. It has some texture to it. Again, I haven't blocked this. And it did smooth out a little bit when I did washed and block the swatch. So we will see. I may or may not change that color. And so the shaping here, it's, the line, the diagonal line, as I said, and it's got this that is a right twist cable, and that'll open up a lot when it's blocked, I think. So there you can see it better. And on the opposite side, it's a left twist cable. So Wintarmanoth, this pattern is coming in collaboration with Knit Picks. So I have done in the more recent past contributions to Knit Picks collections. So I remember all the details with that. This is through their independent designer program, which I haven't submitted a pattern to in a long time. And I don't remember what the details are. Like, I need to email them. Like, I don't know if there's what's it called, a template I'm supposed to follow for the pattern. I don't even remember if I'm allowed to like sell the pattern on Ravelry separately. I don't know. I was just like, oh, I really want to use that yarn. And so I reached out and they said, great. And then I forgot to ask for all the important details. So that is coming at some point in the relatively near future with Knit Picks. And maybe it'll just be on Ravelry on its own. I don't know. I'll let you guys know. So those are the design kind of things that I have been working on lately. So I have almost no new yarn to show you. I have bought new yarn all year, all 23 days of it. I have come very close. I really want the yarn for my Harris hood. Don't have, it's a DK weight yarn, held double with a merino silk or Surrey silk. I don't have enough of what I want in my stash. So I want my Harris hood to be in a neutral color, like a cream or a pale pink, something like that. The only thing I have that's close is I have some plume from Magpie Fibers in this lovely color, a little bit bougie, which I could hold double with another yarn, a DK weight, but I only have one of these, and these are very expensive. So I'm not going to buy another one of that. This, I know it's blurry, but this is my DK weight yarn here, and I don't have anything here that would work. So I have a couple of sweater quantities at the bottom, and then a couple of random skeins here, but none of them are a light color, except for this. But this is a hemp blend, maybe, or a linen blend or something that is not what you want for a winter hood. So I really wanted to buy, I picked out the yarn from Knit Picks. I didn't buy it. I'm trying to cut back on the yarn shopping. I don't need it right now, but I'm this close. And then today they sent me a 15% off coupon. So I don't know how much longer I'm going to hold out, but I haven't bought any yarn this year, and I didn't get any yarn for Christmas, which is very disappointing. But I did get just a little bit of yarn from Hobby that I am going to use, as I said, to make another version of those mittens. And that is this. So this is for their, it's a Valentine's Day campaign. We're ready for some color and some brightness and some light. So I got a couple of balls of this. This is their Friends wool. It is 100% wool. Does it say anything? It says it's made in Turkey. It does not say what kind of wool. It doesn't give you any information about that. This is a basic worsted weight. So As I said, this is a little lighter than the yarn I used for the first mitten. So I'm probably going to go down a couple of needle sizes to recreate the mitten in this lovely shade of pink for Valentine's Day. I've used several of the yarns, but I have not used this one before, so we will see. Just, feeling here, it seems like it's pretty similar to a wool of the Andes. I'll let you know, I'm not personally a big fan of wool of the Andes, mostly just because I think it's um, it's pillier than I would like, and I don't think it's a worsted weight yarn. But this has a sort of a similar feel, which is, this is not going to be a super soft wool, but it is hopefully going to be a super warm wool, which is what we're going to look for in some mittens. And so we will see. But 3 balls of this, and this is called, this color, it just says color 52, but it doesn't have a color name. I know there was a color name on the website, and it was something like Dusty Rose or something similar to that. So definitely sort of a muted, slightly brownish pink. I think this is going to be really nice as the winter continues to hold on and we need something a little bit brighter. This is a very basic, reasonably priced yarn. If you have not purchased from Hobby, I am obviously a part of their influencer campaign. So their yarns are kind of all over the place. They've got some, 100% wools and things like that. And then they've got lots of acrylic yarns. They kind of have something for everybody. And the shipping is surprisingly fast coming from Denmark. So this took like a week to get here. So, definitely take a look over there. If you're looking for some reasonably priced yarn, that's going to get to you pretty quickly. Yeah, that is the only new yarn that has been added to my stash. And we'll see how long I can hold out on not buying any other yarn. All right, we will just, we'll wrap things up with some kind of personal chatter. I really kind of lost my sojo since Christmas. I did cut out a new pair of pants to work on, the Oxbow pants, but I have made almost no progress on them. I don't know, just haven't really been in the sewing mood, so nothing really to show there. We had Christmas. We survived. It was a little quiet. I think the kids were kind of bored. So my sister doesn't have any kids, and my husband has 3 siblings, all of whom have kids, but all of whom spend Christmas in Peru. And I think it was a little quiet for the kids. So we are kind of thinking a little bit about maybe doing Christmas in Peru this year. We haven't done it before. It would be a really big change. And it would require just a lot of logistics. We need somebody to watch our pets during the Christmas season, which is tricky, and we need to somehow get gifts there. And it would be something, it would be a little tricky. And, it's summer there, it's not winter for Christmas. So that would be a big change. And, you don't go cut down your Christmas tree, and there's definitely no snow. And so both kids were kind of like, maybe. But I think it would be nice for them to, they don't know their cousins all that well. 3 of them live in Chile permanently. 2 of them live in Utah, which at least isn't the same country, but so far away, it might as well be another country. And just 1 lives here, in Washington, D.C., but he's 2, so we're not even 2. So they're not doing a whole lot with him yet. But their other cousins are a little bit closer to their age. And I think it would be nice for them to have other kids to play with at Christmas. So that is something we are considering, maybe, for 2025. But Christmas 2024 has come and gone, and it was a lot of work. And so, when you're the mom, you're the one responsible for making the Christmas magic, and nobody's really making the Christmas magic for you. Of course, you're an adult, so maybe you don't need that, but it's still Christmas. I don't not enjoy it, but I also get a little overwhelmed and a little overworked. So it is a bit nice to be back into normal schedule, normal responsibilities. Although I do, miss the lovely music and sparkly lights and all of that. So my kids had Christmas break. They went back to school for 2 days. And then we got the biggest snowstorm we've had in probably like 5 years. So we got about 8 inches of snow, and then they had 3 more snow days. And then I think they had Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, snow day, Thursday, late opening, Friday, finally back to school. This week, it has been so cold that they've had delayed openings. We did get a little snow on Sunday, a couple of inches. And then Monday was a holiday, but it's been so cold they've had late openings. I'm not even sure why. Like, yeah, I get that having kids stand at the bus stop when it's 3 degrees isn't great, but it's not really all that different when it's 8 degrees. Like the difference between, standing at the bus stop at 8 a.m. and at 10 a.m., the temperature difference is not great. So finally today, and I keep thinking it's Friday, but it's only Thursday, and tomorrow back to a normal schedule. Other than that, we have not been doing a whole lot. It has been cold. We're mostly staying inside. So one of my resolutions this year is to do more reading and less scrolling on my stupid phone. So I have been doing more reading. So the first book I read this year was Caroline, which is a reimagining of Little House on the Prairie from the perspective of the mother, Ma Ingalls. I enjoyed that. I really loved the Little House books when I was little, so it was hard to match that kind of energy. But I did enjoy the book. And now I am reading, I believe, a book called The Frozen River, which I am really enjoying. And that is set in the late 18th century in Maine. Involves a midwife and a crime and all kinds of, small town intrigue a couple hundred years ago. So I'm enjoying that quite a bit as well. So my goal is to read 2 novels, fiction, a month, and then ultimately 25. 2025, and then 1 nonfiction book a month. I do enjoy nonfiction, but it does tend to take me a lot longer to read because you really have to be a little bit more focused to absorb the information. So I've been reading a book for like 2 months called, okay, I don't remember what it's called, but I know what it's about, which is re-examining the first meeting between Hernan Cortés and Montezuma, and kind of dispelling some of the myths and things around that. So it's definitely a topic I'm interested in, is in, my field of study and interest. But like I said, it's not something you just, flop down on the couch and read. Have to be sort of in the right mindset and have the ability to focus on on the content, because it's not sort of a light, airy fiction. But that's something you're interested in. It's a good book. I'm not thrilled with the author. He seems a little stuck on himself and how brilliant he is at having made some of these realizations. And he seems a little too sure of himself for something that happened 500 years ago that, there's very little unbiased evidence about. He seems a little too sure of himself for something that happened 500 years ago that, there's very little unbiased evidence about. History is written by the winners. So basically everything we know about Montezuma and the first meeting between Hernan Cortés and Montezuma and the conquest of what is now Mexico. I'm going to stop because I'm doing too much. If that's something that interests you, you can go read that book. Anyway, so trying to do more reading. I don't know what I'm going to read next for my nonfiction. I have a book called Justinian's Flea, which is about the plague and the Emperor Justinian, that I've had forever and I've never read. So that might be the next one. And I've got a bunch of nonfiction in my Amazon cart waiting for them to go on sale, or just, for the price to drop. I'm okay with Kindle, but I like to have real books if and when I can. So I've been working on my reading goal, and obviously have been knitting, not really doing sewing. We are getting ready to celebrate my oldest son's 12th birthday somehow. So he decided he didn't want to party this year. We always have a party, and it's usually just, family and family friends. He's on the spectrum. He's not particularly social. So whenever we do have parties at our house, he's there for like 5 minutes and then he just kind of disappears to do his own thing. So I suggested to him, not that he not have one, but to consider whether he would prefer to do something else, like visit a special zoo. He loves to go to zoos. We have been to all the zoos around us a million times. So I suggested we could take a day trip to a zoo that is not local, but is within driving distance. So we are going to go to the Richmond Zoo, about 2.5 hours from here. And they have animal encounters. So you pay an extra fee and you get like a 15-minute close-up meeting with one of like 5 or 6 animals. So we picked a penguin. So we're going to go to the zoo. It's going to be cold, I'm sure. And we're going to meet a penguin. And that will be his birthday. That is something to look forward to in these cold, very, very cold months. I am ready for spring. Christmas is over. We had a big snowfall. I'm done. I'm done with winter. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of the Hilo Stitch podcast. Links to everything that I've talked about are in the description box down below. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. New knitting videos here every Saturday. If you're looking for me on social media, you can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Media Peruana, and I will see you soon in another video.